Now, we can all agree that the Westwind is one heck of a weapon, right? Especially for the wind typing, it is the weapon that's kind of holding it down. Now, I've already done a video to talk about that, how the next weapon that we're going to be getting, being the SSR weapon, it's going to be the Demon King's Daggers, which obviously Alpha informed us a while back. Now, there's a few things that I know, not just from what I'm doing right now, talking about the weapons, but some additional info that I will upload in the coming hours, or maybe tomorrow, who knows. Just be on the lookout for, like, I don't know, something to do with Jinwoo, maybe Gina, you know. Anyway, so let's get back onto the topic. Westwind, right? This is a fantastic weapon. It holds a ton of damage, crazy amount of burst damage. As I've stated before, the Demon King's Dagger has some serious competition. The developers know this. In order for them to sell that weapon, that either it outdoes the Westwind or it supports it. Those are my only two options that I'm really thinking about on that could potentially persuade you to summon, right? Now, the Westwind itself, look, it's an SR weapon. It's more easier to get than the SSRs, clearly. And with that, majority of us should have it at minimum A3. If you don't have it at minimum A3, then maybe you're new to the game, or maybe you've just been getting lucky with RNG, but you do want to get the Westwind to minimum A3, because then at that very moment, that is when you can maximize the burst damage of the Westwind, of course. Going furthermore on, it's more to do with the cooldown for the weapon, so that way it's more quicker for you to do your double burst shots. But A3 bare minimum is when you can really maximize your damage output, of course, right? So Westwind, SR weapon, A3, that's pretty much the full package on where you need to get it at bare minimum to maximize its damage. Now, in terms of the Demon King Daggers, it seems that it is going down the pure DPS route. Meaning, that is right, I think wind weapons right now are just going to be, well, I'm not too sure on the passives, but like if we can run the Westwind and the daggers together, like if it can work, Christ on a bike, we are going to be having some power. But for the most part, I think catering to make sure our crits up there, that then supports the two weapons. I think that might be the best route to go. So I think the Plum Sword with either of the wind weapon might be the wave, of course. Now, take it with a grain of salt, of course, because things can change. You know, the update is still, what, a week and a half away in terms of when we're actually going to be getting the weapon. And so by then, you know, there's a lot of time to pass by. So if developers want to make those last minute changes, they're more than welcome to do so. Now, as I've just mentioned, they are considering on taking it down that pure well, as of right now, it is looking to be just a full-on DPS weapon, which, I mean, fair play. I mean, you guys have seen like firsthand what the Westwind is capable of, so you know, there's a lot of competition there. Now, the only other thing that I could say is in the direction that it is at right now. Is it going to be outdoing the Westwind? It depends on the final passive with the percentage that they give it. So clearly, as expected, kind of a given when especially when it comes to like DPS weapons, is that depending on the final dupe passive will determine on whether or not it's going to be probably on par. Whether or not it's going to be outdoing the Westwind. So. And again, you know, that's kind of fully more catering into the weapon. So it really comes down to now, like, is it really worth it? Is it really worth spending all my tickets for a weapon that requires high amount of investments? Or could I just continue using the Westwind and then get the daggers at a later time, since the Westwind themselves are doing a fantastic job? I mean, that's the God's honest truth if you really think about it, you know. Don't get me wrong, I'm excited to see on what these daggers are going to be doing, and I mean, those that do put money into the game, of course, I mean, we're more excited to see on what the final outcome will be. But ultimately, I mean, we know what this Westwind possesses, and it is just dismantling all piece of content, right? And my game just crashed. Okay, no, we did. We're chilling, right? That's the God's honest truth. And so it really does kind of put it into perspective of there's no rush. There's no rush. Again, if you're a light spender, if you're free to play, take your time. You've got a fantastic weapon that is already doing its job. Yes, there's a pay-to-win version of it. Might do slightly more damage, who knows? But hey, we've got a weapon right now that's kind of doing its thing, doing its job, doing the damage that we need, and so we can just kind of cater to that. And that kind of brings me along onto what I also want to say is, obviously with the weapon releasing next update, so in a week and a half time, and I know some people might consider using their custom draw tickets, since weapon tickets, I mean, they are somewhat hard to come by. I mean, they don't give them out as often, of course, so some of you guys might want to accumulate those tickets. Of course, it might be wise to actually save the weapon tickets, and actually even save the custom draw tickets, and use them at the end of October to when the dark units are then in the banner themselves, so that way you can maximize on getting the dark type hunters. Because obviously we got the Westwind. Our wind weapon is doing fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic that we're going to be getting another one, and it's going to be pure DPS. But if it requires high amount of investment compared to the Westwind requiring only A3, where the new daggers will potentially push to A5, yeah, it might be wise to kind of maximize your pulls and not jump the gun and go into it not at the beginning of October or near the end of October when Teach drops, or oh god, I forgot the name. Isla, there we go. To then make it so that you can go for the daggers, the two dark hunters being Charlotte and Harper, and then if you want to go for the spear or whatever other new weapon you're trying to go for, then you can also put that into your rate up draws, of course, and maximize your chances. I think that might be, that honestly might be the better option, to be fair. So yeah, maximize your chances of pulling things that you're gonna need for your account, right? Now, here's the thing, right? The whole final percentage on what we're waiting on depending on what it is, they could push it a bit more sooner, to say that rather than making it into an A5 final percentage, they can make it into an A3. So like the final percentage to maximize your damage output could very well be on par with where the Westwind is at, where they make it A3, and that going forward with the A4 and the A5, it could just make it again going down the cooldown side of things, of course. But as far as I'm aware, there is a final percentage on hand that once they apply that, it will determine on where the weapon stands in terms of damage output and if it outbeats the Westwind. That is what is being waited on. But again, there's still time for them to make the changes, but as it stands right now, it's going to be DPS, and the passives are going to be catering for it to do more damage. Makes sense, kind of stating the obvious. But yeah, there's one passive that is kind of being waited on to see on whether or not if it will surpass this beautiful specimen. But if it is A5, then it's definitely a weapon that you can cater to long-term wise, since this badass weapon is going to be holding its own. But I'm just curious on how much damage a dagger is going to do, because in certain scenarios the Westwind will drop 20 mil. Like, I'm not even kidding you, 27 mil. Like, what is this dagger? Because it's big shoes to fill, big shoes to fill.